Legislators are planning to introduce a bill in Parliament that aims at reintroducing corporal punishment following unrest in schools across the country. More than 40 schools have been set ablaze in recent weeks, leading to indefinite closure of many. National Assembly Deputy Minority Whip Chris Somalwa said members of Parliament are thinking seriously about reintroducing caning as a disciplinary measure in schools to avert the escalating unrest. Omalo says cases of indiscipline are on the rise in the country, and caning should be introduced in schools as a form of punishment. His counterpart, Game Member of Parliament Elisha Odhiambo, has also called for the return of corporal punishment for students in order to rein on the current indiscipline and unrest being witnessed in various schools across the country. Education Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed has opposed the proposal to reintroduce caning in schools to curb increasing cases of indiscipline. The CS said corporal punishment violates students' rights. There you go. Members of Parliament are now planning to reintroduce corporal punishment or caning back to schools. Of course, the CS is a record having said that the punishment violates students' rights. Now on phone I have Amos Kaburu, who is an education expert. Amos, good morning. Welcome to the program. Are you in agreement with the CS or the members of Parliament? Let me begin from there.
Thank you, Yusuf, and good morning, our viewers. I'm completely in support of the Cabinet Secretary in what she said, because what the members of Parliament are telling us is completely laughable at this point in time.
Well, from your own point of view, what do you think needs to be done to avert the cases of unrest we're seeing in schools? Because there are experts who are saying that 90% of parenting is supposed to take place at home and just 10% at schools. Who is to blame here in this kind of a situation?
Thank you, Yusuf. These are two different things that you're raising. The issue of the shared responsibility in terms of parenting children, which is a shared responsibility between parents and schools, but one has to be alive to the fact that children spend most of their lives in school, more than they spend time with the parents. So in other words, there is more character formation that takes place at school compared to the household, because the teachers spend more time with the children from as early as 7 in the morning up to late as 6 in the evening, even in primary schools. In secondary schools, we have got over 60% of the children are already attending boarding schools. And therefore, the context in which this growth is happening is likely to affect more children compared to the little time that they spend at home. Of course, psychologists have argued and research has shown that a parent doesn't need a lot of time for them to influence their children. They need even just if they would manage to have 15 hours in a week with their children, it has got significant impact on their behavior and their development, as well as the growth and the outlook about life. Now, coming back to the issue of their management in schools, I think it's a little bit archaic to imagine that corporal punishment in itself is the panacea to the kind of challenges that we are seeing today. First of all, let's put the whole issue into perspective.
Amos, what do you think? Amos, what do you think needs to be the solution? What do you think needs to be done to make sure that we have schools that are disciplined and we're not going to see this kind of arson attacks, left, right, and center?
What we need to do is to have a closer collaboration between the parenting community as well as the school community. And therefore, we develop alternative strategies that have been tried and tested. Because we are talking about 40 schools which are affected. We have more than 7,000 schools. So why would we make a policy because we've based it on 40 schools out of the 7,000? You cannot make a policy based on a few people who feel that it should be the way to go, whereas there are also voices that feel that that is not the way to go. So we need to reevaluate our behavior management strategies, and there are so many of them. And the first fundamental one is to democratize our schools. Because if you look at the nature of our schools, we do not have liberty for children to express their feelings, their frustrations, and their aspirations. And this is what builds a lot of pressure in our schools. And when such peeps in, then it becomes a little bit very difficult for communication to be managed, because you've got a wall that is built between educational managers, educational administrators, the school system, which is made of the board of management, the principals, down to the teachers, and then now you have got the students who are said to be down there. Actually, you typically need to look at a school organogram for you to realize the symmetrical relationship that exists, that is a little bit top-down, whereby students are viewed to be at the lower end, which means they're just the end users. But if you reverse this equation and you have got a system that ensures that you have students at a level of par, because they are the ones who experience the life in the schools, they are the ones who know what is good for them, they are the ones who know what their frustrations are, and we begin to equally empathize with them when we are making school policies, when we are making school decisions, school programs, then in such a way it becomes a little bit easy for schools to communicate. We lower down the pressure that we have. No, not necessary that we have too much pressure around the examinations, because exams are not just everything about life. But you realize that most of our schools are so much obsessed with these examinations. And so in the process, they lose out on the point that you're supposed to have a child who is developing holistically. So when you focus too much on examinations, then a lot of pressure comes in even for the students who know that we still can't perform very, very well. Students do we have? So we can't vent our frustrations, we can't vent our anger, we don't know where to go to. Schools are closing out opportunities even for playing out, going to the field, opening up for clubs and societies and such. And so when such happens, this pressure builds up, and therefore any little opportunity that comes, you see all these kind of volcanic eruptions in the name of unrest that we are witnessing in our schools.
Very much, Amos Kaburu, for your input. Amos Kaburu is an education expert. Meanwhile, former NACADA chairman John Mutudo has also weighed in on this issue. Let's listen into what he had to say.
Using the cane does not solve the problem, but going deep into the psyche of that particular person to know what is the problem, what is ailing this society, what is our issue. And that is what I would tell them, that please don't introduce corporal punishment without treating the patients. People will fear corporal punishment if they are not on cannabis. If they are normal kids, they will fear to be caned. But a guy who is already willing to walk and stab himself, drink his own blood, what caning is nothing to him. He may not even notice it. He's so high. And you know, these opiates are very serious painkillers. He may not even notice what we are trying to do there or thereabout. I want to ask the Parliament to sober up and just look at the root cause of the problem. Where is the problem? The problem, I said, is in parenting. The problem is that we're already hooked, and now it's up to us to sink and drown with it, or solve the problem, like I'm saying, by coming to test all of us.
Away from that for now, and they